Hi, I'm James McLaughlin, editor of Car Design News, and we've just come off stage another very interesting panel discussion about interior design. And I'm here with Sue Neuhauser, who is Senior Manager of CMF at Faraday Futures. Sue, you made some very interesting points about the value of leather and how it has maybe a reputation it maybe doesn't deserve in terms of sustainability.
Yeah, without saying anything bad about the rest of the industry, of course, leather actually is a very sustainable material. It depends where your sources, of course, and which tanneries you're talking to. But leather is one of the oldest materials so far we're working with, and they had a long time to come a long way. So obviously they were evaluating their processes, which was one of the highest polluting processes in the industry for the longest time. But they realized they can't do that, and there came more regulations. So a lot of the tanneries I'll be working with, or Faraday is working with, and a lot of the other startups here working with, actually are carbon negative. And I feel like that doesn't really get communicated or marketed because the vegan leather trend has come now very far. And the vegan leather trend is good. I mean, it's a very good material, but it still uses a lot of oil-based materials, which is kind of not as transparent, but they're on the way there to be also a very premium alternative for leather. And I feel like leather should still be looked at as a premium material, especially now on the sustainability fact, because the processing of the leather has become almost carbon negative. And what else should it be more than using a byproduct of the meat industry we would be throwing away otherwise? And it feels amazing. It is still a luxury product, and now it is carbon negatively produced. So if we won't use that now, it would be very sad.
And it does fit into this idea of circular design, the idea that we can reuse materials and they feed into a sort of chain and things like that. Could you speak a little bit about the idea of where that sits in the design sort of sphere at the moment, this idea of circular design?
So we're looking more and more into like how materials are applied in the vehicle. Before we used a lot of glue and a lot of secondary processes we from design couldn't control. It was just the matter of fact of that's how it was done. But now, especially here in California, where we have a little bit more control over our processes, our supply chains, we're pushing suppliers more to question how they're producing a material, to see, okay, you have this amount of sustainable percentage in there, but you're using still some of the oil-based. What can we do? How can we help you to actually reduce that in order to make something sustainable? And then also the way we are applying it in the interior or exterior to take it apart later and feed it back to you or use something for us in order to go full circle. Because sustainability at the end of the day, we don't want to deplete our resources now and there's nothing left for future generations. We need to preserve what we have. And I feel like, especially here in California, we're kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit more and the supply chain, which is very good because sustainability has become a major trend here. And now it's gotten consumer facing, and the consumer facing actions in the marketing element as well. It's become a major driver for staying competitive in the market.
And another related point to sustainability, but one that doesn't actually get mentioned that often, is this idea of, there's been a big debate about screens and UX and whether there's people who prefer buttons and things like that. But you came out made a very interesting point that screens can be a sustainable option, or can be more sustainable than other ways of managing that user interaction.
So screens is a very good aspect in regards to sustainability. Not only get the component parts of the screen as well becoming more and more sustainable, you can take them apart and reuse elements, but also the aspect of reducing the complexity of interiors of the car. You have a lot of you had a lot of buttons, still have a lot of buttons and functionalities in a car that have to have the certain geometry, which then drives the interior shape. And which makes the interior all very fast. And now using digital content where we can house a lot of functionalities in there, we have now the freedom of designing an interior more timeless and modular, left-hand, right-hand drive, for example, less tooling, or reduced functionalities, meaning also you can use that vehicle for much longer. And if it's a screen that's not completely embedded, you can replace that screen and bring a new screen in there and maybe recycle that screen. So I feel like the screens itself is a strong factor that I feel should be listed onto the factor of modularity, because the interior design fosters to that. Does it make sense?
That absolutely makes sense, and thank you so much for joining us again, Sue, and
course.
thank you for your input on the panel today. It was really
Thank
fascinating.
you, of course.